Colorado's 4th Congressional District. And for those of you who don't know the district lines of the 4th Congressional District, maybe I'm standing up too far. For those of you who don't know the 4th Congressional, do you have different batteries or anything like that? All right, now if I just talk like this for a while, can you guys all hear me?
No.
All right.
No.
We'll get some batteries or something going on this thing. Which one's that? Yeah. So, okay. So anyway, the 4th Congressional District, the lines span from Oklahoma, all the way to the Oklahoma Panhandle, the New Mexico border, all the way up to the Nebraska Panhandle. It's 32,000 square miles of real estate in Colorado's northern Colorado, as well as Colorado's eastern plains. And I like to tell people that when I join them in Congress to tell, hey, you know what? The western parts of this country are a little bit different. You represent a state the size of Connecticut, Massachusetts. You could fit Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey all in the 4th Congressional District. We got a lot of territory to cover. In fact, I think since January 1st, this is our 19th town meeting since January 1st. Since being sworn in, actually January 5th. 19th town meeting. Since that time, we've driven over 20,000 miles already, even though that we've been in session and back and forth. So thank you very much for being a part of this today. Thought I would start out this morning, just talk a little bit about what's happening. Obviously, our focus during the 112th Congress has been on jobs and the economy. And in my opinion, you have to address at that point spending issues as well. We face a $14.3 trillion debt. Our deficit's approaching $1.5 trillion again. We're borrowing 42 cents of every dollar. And so we've got some tremendous challenges. If we're going to create jobs and economic opportunity, then we have to make sure that we are bringing down the cost of government. And so that's what we've been focused on. We passed a number of jobs bills out of the House of Representatives. In fact, one of my bills passed with bipartisan support a couple months ago, the Jobs and Energy Permitting Act. The Jobs and Energy Permitting Act could create as many as 54,000 jobs across the United States. All right, thank you. This is a little bit better. As many as 54,000. 54,000 jobs across the country. We scoot back. It also has the potential to bring as many as 1 million barrels of oil a day of United States produced resources online. That's enough energy to replace our imports from Saudi Arabia. I've also introduced a bill called the Small Business Savings Account. The Small Business Savings Account is a way to help job creators put people back to work and to grow and expand. It works simply like this. If you have a small business, you're able to put money into an account, receive a tax deduction for that. You'd be able to grow your investment. And then when you're ready to buy a pizza oven to expand your business, buy a new delivery vehicle for your flower store, then you're able to take that money out and you would not pay a gain on the you wouldn't pay a tax on the gain. So it's a way to encourage people to save and start creating jobs. I've also introduced a bill on the Government Accountability Office. Thank you. The Government Accountability Office report that was issued several months ago that identified billions of dollars in overlap and inefficiencies within government. In the past, that report, unfortunately, has been kind of ignored. It's been placed on the top shelf, gathering dust somewhere. This would actually force the committees to act on the findings of that bill and to decide whether or not that truly is that overlap, the inefficiency is something that truly needs to be addressed. And so instead of just letting that report gather dust, we would actually put it to use and make Congress act on the findings of that report. I also want to talk about what just happened in Congress with the issue of the debt ceiling. I mentioned before, this country has a $14.3 trillion debt. A lot of that has to do not with Republicans or Democrats. It has to do with Republicans and Democrats. Both people who have gone to Congress and spent too much money for far too long. As a result, Congress was faced with increasing the debt ceiling. And the question became whether or not it should be increased, whether or not it should be increased with a clean up or down vote, as many were talking about in January, whether there should be tax increases accompanying that, whether there should be spending cuts accompanying that, or there should be some combination thereof. But it was all working down toward an August 2nd deadline. The idea being that if August 2nd hits and we do not have a plan in place to address this country's debt ceiling, that it could have very negative impact on our economy. Whether that meant a default, whether that meant a down in the market, or whether that meant a downgrade in the market as we have seen. And so a lot of challenges that we face to get to that part of the debate. And over the summer, negotiations took place on how much spending to cut, whether or not to cut spending. This past week, a plan was put in place that I actually voted for, and I'll tell you why. Number one, it does reduce spending. Number two, it addresses the issue of August 2nd, because I was afraid of the economic consequences of not putting a plan in place by August 2nd. People both on the left and the right said that the economic consequences of failing to put a plan in place by August 2nd could be catastrophic. Thirdly, remember the budget surpluses back in the 1990s, the early 1990s? Many of those surpluses could be credited toward spending caps that were put in place. And so this bill actually puts in meaningful spending caps to cap spending. And it also makes sure that over the next several months, Congress is taking another look at even more spending cuts. And if they don't come to an agreement, then there will be automatic sequestration, which is spending cuts across many areas of government to reach those spending cuts for the second part of the debt ceiling vote that just came up. And I think another important feature of that was the requirement that both the House and the Senate vote on a balanced budget amendment. And so that will be a vote over the next several months. I think sometime between October and December, there will be a vote on a balanced budget amendment in the House and the Senate. Those are all important issues that we've been talking about, and I thank you very much for being here this morning. And with that, I'd just like to turn it over to you and ask questions. The first question, though, goes to the Democrat chair of the 51st House District, Bob Massaro. Bob is the Democrat chair of the 51st House District. Bob.
First, I want to thank you for coming. I wish you'd have more time.
Give him the mic.
Yeah, unfortunately, we only have one mic because they cross-communicated and had a little feedback this morning, so I'll repeat the question.
First, I want to thank you for coming. I wish you'd come more often, okay? Because we really do want to see you here and get our voices to you, okay? My question is a fairly simple one. We do learn from history, or I hope we learn from history, okay? And history shows that the only president that had less job creation than President Bush in his 8 years in office was Herbert Hoover. George Bush created 1.1 million jobs in his 8 years in office. It takes 120,000 jobs per month just to keep up with the number of people entering the workforce. That's 2.8 million jobs in an 8-year series, okay? He created 1.1 million jobs. The tax cuts that were put in place immediately after he came in office were supposed to create jobs. So my question is simple. If we're looking at history, why didn't those tax cuts create more jobs? Under President Clinton, where we had